So we are going to start the brand new chapter, chapter 4, and this is all about area formulas for different polygons. So make sure you have your notes, make sure you are following along with me. So it says the area of a rectangle is, this is length times width. We just write it as L times W, so length times width. We can use this formula to derive the area of a parallelogram. Derive is just like a big kid word for to come up with, okay? So we know that if we have a rectangle, if I do the length times the width, that gives me the area. So I'm going to use that to derive, to come up with the area formula for a parallelogram. So I cut out a parallelogram, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut a triangle. Make sure you guys are writing this in with me. So I'm going to cut a triangle off of my parallelogram. So I'm just going to draw like a line right here. I'm going to cut my parallelogram, or my triangle off of my parallelogram. Okay. And move it so that I can make a rectangle. So all I did was, it looked like this originally. Okay, I cut off this piece. I'm sliding it over to the right. Now what do I have? A rectangle. So you move it to make a rectangle. The piece that we drew and cut off ends up being the height of the parallelogram. Okay, so this line that this cut off here, this ends up becoming the height, okay, of the parallelogram. So another name for the width is the base. So our formula is going to be base times height. And an important thing to notice is the base and the height have to make a 90-degree angle. So a 90-degree angle looks like this. That's a 90-degree angle. So if I drew a parallelogram here, this could be the base. The height can't be this slanted one. You'd have to draw in a vertical line here, and that would be the height, which is kind of what I did when I cut out my pieces. Always label in unit squares by writing a 2 above the label. So you always put a 2 above your label. So let me show you a couple of examples. We want to find the area of these parallelograms. So the formula is base times height. So I'm literally just multiplying the base by the height. I know that these are the base and the height because they make a 90-degree angle. That little square there is to represent that it's making a 90-degree angle. So I'm just doing 10 times 3, which is 30. So 30 yards squared would be my final answer. For this one, it's drawn sideways, but it's the same exact thing. So if I turn my whole paper, this would be the base. This is the height. So I'm multiplying 7.5 times 3. So I have to make my mixed number improper. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15, so 15 halves. Make my whole number a fraction by writing it over 1. I can't cross cancel anything, so I'm going to multiply it right across. I get 45 halves centimeters squared. So make sure you filled these out with me before you move on. Okay, we are going to figure out how you find the area of space inside of something. So when finding the area of a parallelogram with a missing piece inside, you find the area of both of the shapes and then you subtract them. So we want the area of the shaded part, which means I'm going to find the area of the big parallelogram, which is going to be 12 times 12. So remember, this 13 is here just to throw us off because you have a parallelogram. It's base times height. They have to make a 90-degree angle. So this 12 is the height. So that's 144. And then the rectangle is 6 times 8. That's 48. And then I'm going to subtract them. So if I take the area of the entire shape and I take away this rectangle, that gives me the area of the shaded part. So that's going to be 6, borrow again, so 96 feet squared. Okay, so make sure you did all of this with me. We're going to try some practice problems. You can do the practice problems on the bottom. So I'm going to do 2 more practice ones, and I'm going to give you 2 to try. Again, the formula is base times height. The base and the height have to make that 90-degree angle. So this would be 14 times 12, base times height. So 8, 2, start with a 0, 4, 1, add my 2 rows, meters squared. Okay, you guys are just watching. This base times height, 8.5 times 4. I'm going to make this 17 over 2, multiplying and then adding the numerator. I can cross cancel these. I get 34 feet squared. Okay, you're going to pause and try these 2. So it's literally just base times height. So base times height, label it yards squared. 7.5 times 3, label it yards squared. This is showing you that sometimes it's easier to draw the height on the outside of the shape because if I were trying to draw a 90-degree angle from here, it doesn't go all the way down. So sometimes they have to give you one on the side of the shape, but it's the same thing. So 5 times 2, so this would be 10 units squared since it doesn't have a label. For this one, they're giving you a grid, so you have to figure out what your dimensions are and then multiply them. So I'm going to try one like this, and then I'm going to give you one to try. So you just watch. So my base is going to be this line here. What I do is draw loops between the boxes and count how many loops I have. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for my base. And now my height has to make a 90-degree angle from the top to the bottom. So I could just draw a line right here and count my loops. That's 3. So my base is 5, my height is 3, and then 5 times 3 is 15 units squared. Or you could put a U with a 2 over it. So draw loops and then count how many. That's your base. Do the same thing, but it has to make a 90-degree angle, so straight up and down. Multiply your base and height. So I want you guys to try this one. So I would consider this to be the base, so count your loops, and I would draw from here to here, so you get from the bottom all the way to the top to get your height, and then do base times height. Okay, here's one where we want to find an area of the missing piece. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to find the area of the big parallelogram, which looks like it is 7 times 5 for my base times height. I'm going to find the area of my small rectangle inside, which looks like it's just 1 times 3. This is 35. This is 3. I'm going to subtract the 2, bigger minus smaller, to get my shaded part, 32 feet squared. Okay, so you find the area of the big parallelogram doing base times height, the area of the little rectangle doing blanks times width, and then you subtract them. You're going to try this one. It says you make a photo prop for a school fair. You cut a 10-inch square out of a parallelogram-shaped pieces of wood. What is the area of the Photoshop? So you're going to find the area of this big shape, which they're telling you is 8 by 4, and the area of this square, which is 10 by 10. So find the area of the big parallelogram and of the bottom square, or the small square, I should say, and then subtract the 2. So that would be your last one.